One of the reasons why I created this channel is because I feel very strongly that time is of the essence in regards to getting as much Bitcoin in the hands of the average citizen as possible before the institutions and the governments and the elites get into Bitcoin. And the reason why is not so much economic as political. The reason is that I believe if the average citizen gets into Bitcoin now, they will substantially improve their economic position. But the reason why I care about that is not because they will now be able to buy a Lambo. It's not that they will be rich. That's not what I care about. I don't care about the material advantages that come with becoming wealthy, with becoming financially independent. I don't want as many average people to get into Bitcoin just so that they can quit their jobs and do what? Just sit around and watch Netflix? No, that's not the reason why I want as many people, and not institutions, to get into Bitcoin as possible. Because here's the thing, when you are financially independent, when you have wealth that you control, absolutely, when you are sovereign, you are able to stand up for your moral convictions and to say, I do not consent to this political regime, or I do not consent to this particular political mandate or injustice. You can stand up and you can say, I know, I do not consent to that. I withdraw my consent. And you have the capacity to have that courage. You have the capacity to have that power. You see, Bitcoin in the hands of the average citizens is like having self-defense tools widely distributed amongst the population, widely distributed amongst the citizenry. Because it gives the average citizen the power to say, to draw a line in the sand and to say, no, this is too far. You have gone too far. We do not consent to this. And there's power there. There's political power in the healthiest sense, because it is distributed, it is decentralized, it is in the control of the individual. So it is political power in the healthiest possible sense, in the healthiest and most incorruptible form, because concentrated political power is very easy to subvert, and it is by its nature, it seems that concentrated political power corrupts by its very nature. I believe that political power ideally should be as distributed as possible, as decentralized as possible, recognizing certain limitations. And I think that Bitcoin is an example not just of distributed money, but it is an example of distributed political power. Because when you, again, to return to the central thesis, if you have control of your wealth in an absolute sense, and that is the case with Bitcoin, and you have enough of it that you are able to say no, to stand up and say no, even if it means losing your job, even if it means losing your career, because you have enough wealth and it is in your absolute sovereign control, you have the ability to behave politically. You have political agency. It's not just economic agency. You are now a powerful political player. even though you're just an individual. Because now, it's not just that you are going every 4 years and dropping a ballot in a booth, and that's the end of it, and you are just one vote amongst millions. Now you are able to have a considerable degree of influence, to be able to withdraw your consent from the political system altogether and take your capital with it. That's powerful. That's what I call a vote. Yeah, this ballot that you put in a box, and you vote for a politician, a career politician, and they will represent you. This is not political power. Democracy in this form is weak and corruptible, and it provides an illusion of power. It provides an illusion that the average citizen actually has influence and has a say. No, you really don't. You really don't. Any power that you have when you vote is honestly minuscule. Real democracy is when every citizen is able to withdraw their energy from the political system altogether. If there is a certain if there's a certain injustice, or there is a certain form of political tyranny that is being implemented, or that a person is being oppressed with, they do not have to just wait a few years for the next election and then vote and then hope that career politician will change things, which they don't. Now, if the average citizen with Bitcoin has become independently wealthy, at least to the degree that they can afford to walk away from their job, at least for a period of ideally a few years. Well, this gives the average citizen real political power. Real political power. You know the power of just 10% of the citizens of a nation having the power provided by Bitcoin to basically strike anytime they want. That's real political power. That is the type of political power that governments respect. They respect it. And if they don't respect it, they fear it. Why? Because just 10% of the citizens who are have sovereign control over their wealth and have enough wealth that they can walk away from the system at any point. They can shut down the entire political system. They can shut down the entire economic system anytime they want. And there's nothing anyone could do about it. Because there's no circuit breaker. There's no funny business that they can play with the rules like they did with GameStop situation. There was an example of citizens using capital, using their own wealth to effectively vote against Wall Street, to effectively vote against something they saw on Wall Street that they saw as immoral. And you know what the powers that be did? They changed the rules. They changed the rules of the game, and they did it with the snap of a finger. It really did demonstrate just how much the establishment protects its own. How the establishment does not exist for the betterment of the average citizen. The establishment protected the hedge funds and did not care about the average citizen who is effectively voting with their money, who is effectively attempting to play the game by the rules that were set by the establishment, and when it started to go against them, they changed the rules to protect themselves. So the GameStop that Sega, or that very peculiar incident, that was a great lesson, I think, for many people, because they realized that the establishment will just change the rules of the game if the game ever starts to lean in favor of just the average citizen. Well, the lesson there is that you have to play a game where they can't change the rules, and Bitcoin provides that power. No one can change the rules of Bitcoin. It's an asymmetry of power unlike anything we've seen in history. The asymmetric power that Bitcoin gives the individual, just even a dishwasher, the power that it provides the person compared to the absolute power of the state is just astonishing. It's an asymmetry like we've never seen. It puts power back in the people, and not in the sense of a political. It's not a political tagline. It's not the campaign slogan of a career politician. It's a real political reality. Bitcoin changes politics forever, because the model that the West and other countries around the world currently have in regards to democracy, it's a broken model that's been hacked. It's a broken model that's been exploited and corrupted. It no longer provides any real power to the individual, to the average citizen, to the working class, to the middle class. These democracies have long ago ceased to provide any real political power. It's effectively been hacked. But Bitcoin brings real democracy, not the type of democracy that is just a veiled bureaucracy. It's just a veiled technocratic bureaucracy. There's no real power of the average person in democracy as we know it. It's actually heavily that power is heavily concentrated in central planners and in institutions, in bureaucratic positions that are not elected. So much power is concentrated in these institutions that we cannot talk about a real democracy. But Bitcoin changes that. Bitcoin puts real political power in the hands of the average person, of the average citizen, at least to the degree that it provides them with enough wealth that they can at any time opt out of the political and economic system altogether. At any time they can strike. Bitcoin allows it provides the ability for the citizenry to strike, to institute a labor strike at a moment's notice, without any planning required, without any centralized leaders at all. Everyone just independently decides, I'm opting out. I'm done with this. They withdraw all of their energy out of the system, store it in Bitcoin, and there's nothing the government or any institution can do about it. And the power that a general strike can provide the people, that ability is provided by Bitcoin, but it is amplified in that a general strike, as it is traditionally known throughout history, there are many ways to break it. There's many difficulties in terms of organization. There is the problem of centralized leadership. look to Australia as a great example of the dangers and the limitations of attempting the type of political strike, or the opting out of the system that I am describing. There are people in Australia that are attempting that right now, and what do we see? We see news reports that their bank accounts are being confiscated. You see, as long as you are tied into the system, it can control you. Even if you have the wealth, even if you are rich, quote unquote, it doesn't matter, because you don't control your wealth. The system does. It's not just that Bitcoin, it's not just that I want people to become wealthy from Bitcoin. It's that Bitcoin is a form of wealth that is itself intrinsically sovereign, that itself is the form of political power that a sovereign individual can wield and control. The Bitcoin itself is the source of that power. It's not just a matter of being wealthy. It's what kind of wealth do you control? Or do you have the kind of wealth that they can just shut down or confiscate? Do you have the form of wealth that provides you with political agency? Or do you have the form of wealth that is itself ultimately under the thumb and under the control of the system? Bitcoin provides the ability to strike as a vote against political tyranny or oppression. It's a way to strike against that without any of the without the government being able to shut down that strike in any of the ways that traditionally have occurred. You just withdraw your consent, you withdraw your energy from the system, and you cross your arms and you say, I'm not participating again until certain things change, and that's all there is to it. That gives you tremendous, tremendous political power. This, to wrap up, this is why I bang my fist on the table and I say, you need to get into Bitcoin now. And when I say you, I'm talking to the average citizen, the middle class, the working class, blue collar. This is the backbone of society. The average citizen that needs to buy Bitcoin, not to get rich for material reasons, but to become independently wealthy with an asset that is under their complete and sovereign control, because then they will have real political power once again. This is why I say the average citizen needs to get into Bitcoin now, because the opportunity for the average citizen to accumulate enough Bitcoin now that it will translate into the type of power that I'm talking about, the type of power where you can walk away from the system on the turn of a dime without hesitation. In order to accumulate that amount of wealth, the best opportunity, I believe, is with Bitcoin. But time is of the essence. Time is of the essence, because I believe that the ability to accumulate enough power represented by Bitcoin, which is translated into political power, in order for the average citizen to accumulate enough of this to truly be an independent and sovereign political agent in this world, the window of opportunity for this is closing. The time for the average citizen to be able to accumulate enough Bitcoin to become a sovereign political agent in this world, to be considered a real power player, the opportunity to accumulate that kind of wealth through Bitcoin is I believe is still here. That opportunity still exists. It won't for very much longer. And that precious moment of opportunity in history, that 1 to 1.5 decades in which the average citizen was able to accumulate real political power represented by Bitcoin. That is such a narrow moment in history. It is so critical. It is so crucial that as many average people as possible get into Bitcoin for that reason, not for any material reason, not for Lambos, not for getting rich. That forget all that. This is about freedom and political power. Are you just going to be a serf who is given a token vote every 4 years, but beyond that is essentially a slave of the system, is totally dependent upon it, and therefore has no power? If you are dependent upon a system, political or economic, what power do you have? They may give you a token vote, but you do not have real power because you are dependent. You can't walk away from the system. Bitcoin allows you to walk away from the system. If you can't strike against the system, if you can't withdraw your consent at a moment's notice, you have no political power. Bitcoin has given us this narrow window of opportunity. This does not happen often in history, almost never. There's very few cases where we see the average citizen having their an opportunity to expand their own political power. This almost never happens. The opportunity has been there for this narrow sliver of time in history with Bitcoin. That opportunity is going to be gone very soon. Yeah, on a grand historical scale, either you seize that power now, or essentially you will never have that opportunity again.